Another way to copy containers is using a function called Coco. Now you already know how to copy containers by holding down the control key and clicking and dragging. This Coco is another way to do it. So let's drag a primitive down here like this, and we want to copy this primitive. So I'm going to go into my FP or my functions tab, go into my container folder on the left hand side, and within the container folder you'll see a function here called Coco. I'm going to take this Coco and drag it right down onto my primitive container. If I click on my Coco icon and go into the Coco editor, Coco, by the way, stands for container copy. An easy way to remember that is that it starts with CO, and this folder here, container, begins with a CO as well. So every function within this folder pretty much begins with a CO. Within the Coco editor, our first option here is number of copies. So we can change this to however many of copies that we want to make of this container. Our scene tree level is set to same by default. We're going to leave it as that. Clear transformation is set to off by default. Our starting index is 0. So let's change this to 1, and it asks us for a container name. So I'm going to type in here cube all in caps. And now when I hit execute, what it did is copy that container 3 times because we had number of copies set to 3. It also renamed container to cube, and we set the starting index to 1, so every container that it copied now put a digit afterwards. So I'm going to get rid of these 3 containers that I just copied. I'm going to go back into the Coco editor. Now this time we're going to leave the number of copies the same, but we're going to turn on the scene tree level is going to go to down. And when I hit execute this time, what it does, it makes subcontainers of the main container. Now I'm going to come into my cube and I'm just going to rotate this a little bit, and I'm going to go back into my Coco editor. Again, number of copies, we're going to leave it 3. Scene tree level this time we'll set to same. This time we're going to turn on clear transformation. So that's on, and we'll leave the starting index and the container name the same. So now when we hit execute, what happened here is that our first container was rotated, but the additional copies that we made are set to the 0. So you can see how this is facing us and everything is set to 0 on the transformation axis. Now let's get rid of this once more, and we'll go back into the Coco, and this time the scene tree level we're going to set to down, and we're also going to leave this clear transformation on. And when I hit execute, this time our cubes all lined up and it kept the transformation settings the same. So a couple different options that you can use the Coco for when it comes to copying containers.